Well, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are located in this time space continuum. I am astrolunachick. You can call me Susan. That's fine. I answer to that too. And if you're just joining me for the first time, please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. Hit the little bell so you'll get notified when I post a new video. And if you are interested in following my work or my obnoxious comments, you can find me on Twitter, X, astrolunachick, the one, the only. And if you're interested in a reading and you're feeling the winds of change shifting and the sands beneath your feet, because that's what this feels like in Pisces. Oh my God. Saturn in Pisces has been a trip, but there's a lot of things coming to a head right now. And we just had eclipses, right, in March and April. Well, really, March. Well, March, not April, but we're still kind of in it. It doesn't just happen on one day. It kind of has a reverberating effect and can last for years, depending on the planets and the transits. In my opinion, it depends. Every eclipse is different. So, if you're looking for a little guidance and clarity, please come looking for me. If you're interested in a reading, you can email me at astrolunachick@gmail.com, or you can call me on the bat phone. No, don't call me. Text me on the bat phone. Uh, the Astrolunachick hotline at 914-222-1231. Again, that number is 914-222-1231. And text me, say, hey, what's up? I need a reading. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, I think I don't know if most people look for a website, a price list, a menu, a la carte, prefix, sort of offering of services. I don't do that. I've never done that. I mean, I tried to do it. It just doesn't, I'd rather connect with someone and say, what are you looking for? Ideally, I like to have a short conversation. And in just a minute or two, I can discern what we're looking at, what the person is looking for. I don't really do a whole lot of like birth chart readings, like strictly birth chart. I kind of look at where the person is right now and the relevant transits, because to be honest with you, I could tell you about a section of your chart that is just not lit up right now, but it's important. But if you're not dealing with it or you're not aware of it, what good is it going to do you? I would rather look at where things are right now and kind of meet people where they're at, give them the tools that they need in the moment. And then, if there's any interest, we can go further on, deeper into that. Like, why? What's going on? Where are you at in your process of evolution? What are the family patterns? What are the psychological underpinnings? And what are the spiritual lessons being learned by what we're going through? So much to cover. Gonna really try, as I always do, to keep it short. I've gotten better. I've gotten better. So I think what I'll do right now is share the screen so y'all can see what we're working with. Why does it always do that to me? This is why I stopped streaming live because I was trying to stream live while recording on a Zoom platform. You know, you can do that. You don't have to have somebody else on the line. You could just open up a meeting and record it. That's what I do. So it works for me when I share my screen, but with the streaming software, it wasn't quite streaming my screen. It was giving me some kind of fakakta image and messing with the Zoom and just a whole lot of problems. So I'm just recording it and then I'm going to upload it as if it were, I can stream it live. I can stream a pre-recorded video live to YouTube or the Twitter. And I think that's what I'm going to do. So as you can see here, I have pulled up a chart for my location, but you could just adjust for your location, right? So this is set for New York, and uh, I set the time for 11:06. You don't need to know why, but whatever I'm talking about, if it's, timing, don't worry necessarily about like the time of day. It's going to just cover most of the day. For me, this is kind of, this morning when I'm starting my day, I'm like, all right, when my brain starts getting functioning, what am I looking at? But, you could set yours for your daily chart for whatever time of day. So just remember then this is Eastern Standard Time that I'm working on, and you can add or subtract the time for your zone. So today we are looking at Moon in Scorpio, and it went into Scorpio earlier in the morning on Sunday after a void moon. Now, we did have the full moon last night, and we would have had the full moon, let's see, evening from to late evening. It was later in the day for most of the US. I think even in the West, it would have been, I don't know, 6 or 7 o'clock. I'm not sure exactly what time, but that's fine. So we went from our full moon yesterday, uh, and the full moon was at 23 degrees of Libra, opposing the sun at 23 degrees of Aries, and the sun is conjunct Chiron. And it's still conjunct Chiron. It'll be conjunct Chiron for the beginning part of this week, let's say. I'm just going to change the time because I want to see exactly what time the full moon would have been. So depending on where you were at, it was like 8 p.m. or 5 o'clock West Coast time in the United States. Anyway, Sun conjunct Chiron. The sun is our life force, our identity, the individual. In Aries, very much the individual, our ego identity, who we think we are, our ability to and our right to exist, individual and the life force spark. Aries is like in the spring. If you, let's say, I don't know how it would be on the West Coast, but we're in a tropical environment. But I'm thinking of like after the winter, when things start to warm up, and then you start to see the first like hint of green growth and life. Aries being a fire sign, it is fire, but like fire in the sense of energy and spirit, right? It is the life force spark. It is what makes that blade of grass or that seed that has sprouted. It's that energy that pushes that, you know, little seedling through the dirt and start to grow, right? Here in the Northeast, where I am, we have in March, every time around mid-March, it's maple sugaring time. And that's because the maple syrup comes from the sap of the maple tree. And the time that it starts getting collected is about mid-March when the sap, which is really like the blood of the tree, which is corresponding to the tree's life force energy, starts to rise up from the roots where it's been dormant all winter, rise up through the trunk of the tree to go out to the branches so it can create the the leaves, the buds, right? Think about it. Aries represents the blood, right? The color of Aries is blood. Aries and Mars, Mars ruling Aries is blood, okay? And in a sense, it is our life force energy. The blood carries the life force energy. So this full moon in April is known as the pink moon. And what is pink, right? Pink, think about pink. Pink is the flush of the cheeks because the blood vessels are uh, becoming close to the surface of the skin, right? The temperature rising, warm, the body warming, the earth warming. And so I think this is a very pivotal time where we need to look at what is our personal wounding. Chiron, if you don't know, all right, Chiron's not a planet, it's an asteroid. We have an asteroid belt that surrounds our solar system, the orbit, which goes around the sun. If you're into astronomy, you understand that the asteroid belt is a bunch of, chunks of rocks of probably another planet that was in our solar system, some would say. Um, and it's just pieces that are caught, in the gravitational pull and the orbit around the sun. So, okay, so Chiron is a rock, all right? There are many, many hundreds of thousands of asteroids, and many of them are named. Many of them are named after characters in mythology. Chiron is a character in Greek mythology. Chiron is a centaur. Chiron and the centaurs in general represent our higher and lower nature, right? The sort of because they are half horse and half human, right? So horse, being an animal, being a beast, represents our like animal nature, so to speak, right? And then balancing that with our human and godlike divine nature is just sort of these asteroids represent kind of the quintessential battle between good and evil, higher and lower, um, potential, should we say, the dark side, the shadow side of human nature, and our spiritual potential, right? Like we try to overcome those animal instincts, right? Our baser nature. So there's a lot going on. Aries is a masculine sign, and the sun and Chiron being in Aries, I would say, is dealing with the masculine nature, men in general, and the self, the ego, the selfhood. So the opposite sign where the moon is, and the moon is our emotional nature, um, and the moon is in Libra. And Libra is, you know, Aries is the sign of me. Libra is the sign of we. So there's the self, right? And then there's the self that we get to know and understand through our relationships with other people. Because we need that mirror. We need to be able to see things about ourselves that we would never see if we didn't have someone come in to play that role, whether it's the teacher or the guru, the pastor, the friend, the counselor, or the enemy. And in this case, it is interesting because the moon is conjunct another asteroid, Nemesis. So I'm sure you've all heard the word nemesis. And, we equate it with an enemy. Our nemesis is our enemy. It's our Waterloo. It's our downfall. It's, if you look at the actual definition, it talks about the agent of our downfall. It's where we meet it's almost kind of like a Achilles heel in a way, but it can be, you know, an arch enemy or arch nemesis, right? But it's the thing that we fight against or project perhaps onto other people. And, there's a lot of projection going on. I would say that of all of, projection, let's look at projection as an opposition of planets, right? There's our perspective, and then we're looking at another person, right? And we're always in some way projecting our issues onto another person, onto a situation. Think of it as a movie screen and a projector, right? Where we get to see ourselves. There's a mirror effect. And we are either, I think, judging other people. Sometimes we project our shadow onto other people. And, when somebody does something irritating, and when it's actually something that we do. Of all the signs, Virgo and Pisces, I think, are the most, what I associate most with projection and scapegoating. Well, along with Capricorn, because Capricorn is the goat, right? And interestingly, Aries, where we're at right now, is the ram, and it is like the sacrifice. If you look at the actual, like, real esoteric symbolism of Aries and the lamb and the sacrifice and how how it all ties into Pisces, the Piscean age, the a different type of sacrifice, right? I don't want to get into like the religion and Christianity, but Christ becoming a quote human sacrifice, giving one's life for another, so that we don't have to like kill an animal. In those times, sacrificing the ram uh, was a substitute. That's why we call it a scapegoat. We're going to sacrifice an animal. It's basically when humanity went from animal sacrifice to appease the gods to an animal, sacrificing an animal instead of humans, right? And then we get, the story of Jesus and Christ becoming the sacrifice for all time. So, like, we don't have to kill anybody anymore. But so what we do is we sacrifice people and things metaphorically. But I just went off on a tangent. So I think we're really looking at the quote other when it comes to our relationships. We are looking at our feelings, our emotions, um, and how we maybe uh, look for our own self-worth in other people, in our relationships. Because if we don't have the self-love, the self-confidence um, within us, then we go looking for love and affirmation and validation from outside of us. And that's not to say that it's wrong to get that. It's not wrong. But it's when our cup is not full and we are trying to fill our cup by seeking out approval, attention, um, or just external means, whether it's, um, external validation. For some people, it's money. Like if they have money, they feel like that boosts their self-esteem, right? And there's not, it's not to say that it's wrong. It's just that we need to look at where where do we seek our our worth from, and look at our relationships to see, is this really a give and take, even give and take? Because Aries Libra axis, the opposition of Aries and Libra will show, it's like the me and the we, right? So if someone is all me, Aries, then the we, Libra, is going to suffer, right? So I think this really ties into the planets that we've been dealing with, the Pisces pileup with Mercury, the North Node of destiny, right? Think about the North Node as our trajectory, where we're going, our true north, what we are needing to put effort in, right? Um, Saturn is there, Venus is there, right? So Venus is now direct. So let's skip over a day. So the full moon was yesterday. Today's the 13th. It's at the 8th day in numerology. The 13, 413, 2025 reduces to 8. So we're almost to the end of that sort of 9-day energy cycle. And Venus is now direct. We just had Mercury go direct. Let's see, when was that? What day? Like last week or so. Was right. Okay, the 7th. And we're at the 13th. So yeah, it's just about a week ago. It was last weekend. When the planets go direct, the energy focuses inward. And it also goes to the past, which is why a lot of times during retrogrades, issues and people from the past come up. And if any Mercury retrograde would have brought back people from the past, this was the one, because Venus is there too. Venus is relationships. And we're thinking about our relationships, and we're thinking about our value, and we're thinking about our money, right? Our financial standing. That's a lot of what Venus represents. And the full moon coming to a peak in Libra, Venus rules Libra. It also rules Taurus. So Taurus, the Venusian rulership of Taurus is more material. It's physical. It's tangible. It's what we can validate by practical means, like it is the return on the investment of energy into our relationships. This is where it is physical, right? It's also, physical, being not distant, being able to touch, taste, whatever we can discern with the five senses. It wants pleasure, right? Physical pleasure. So that's Taurus. So in Libra, Libra's an air sign. Libra's mental. Libra is relational on a intellectual level, right? Communication. And it is more, it does also look for aesthetic harmony, balance, looking good, from the outside, presentation. Those are all very Libra things. Now, again, I think this full moon is important because it really has us looking at our relationships with people and how balanced or unbalanced they are. And it has not been easy with Venus and Mercury retrograde, both of them. And with Neptune in the mix, Neptune is now in Aries, but Neptune has been in Pisces for a very long time. And Neptune is the dream, the illusion, the higher octave of Venus, really, because it spiritualizes things. And I just also think that Saturn in Pisces has been really, really hard because it's hard to draw the line. It's hard to see where the line is. Where are the boundaries? And now Venus being conjunct, stationing from her retrograde, conjunct to Saturn, has hit a boundary, has hit the brick wall, has crossed the line, and that's it. No more. This cannot go on kind of thing. Also, people are feeling, if you are older, or maybe, even if you're younger, feeling a sense of, it's not time to fuck around. It's really important to have uh, good, long lasting relationships, people that you can rely on, who have integrity, who you can trust. This is testing relationships, it's testing loyalty, it's testing fidelity. And in Pisces, where there are no boundaries, um, Saturn has been testing the limits and defining the limits. And where we are out of integrity, where we have crossed the line, crossed a boundary in relationships, we're going to feel it because Saturn comes back in to clap back on people who are and situations. I don't want to just say like people who are. It is, I'm just seeing people and public figures too, um, kind of getting their karma in a way. Like they're getting repercussions. There are repercussions for crossing the line in relationships. But we're also talking about money here. And God, what happened with the stock market? Like the financial stuff has been crazy over the past 2 weeks, talking about tariffs. Saturn is restriction, tightening the belts, prices falling. Saturn does represent boundaries, but it's like, how low is it going to go? Right? Um, It is the loss of value across the board with a lot of things. Whether we're talking about a loss of self-worth, a loss of self-respect, um, there's a lot of depression with Saturn Venus. It is, Saturn's a lack of, and Venus is love. Lack of love, lack of respect. Saturn is respect. Lack of self-respect. Or, even looking at, because we've had such a long retrograde type season and Venus retrograde, there's something that Venus does, and it has a particular cycle. There's an 8-year cycle, and it has to do with her retrogrades and her conjunctions with the sun. And it has to do with long-term cycles in relationships and what we go through. And, some people are finding themselves alone because they haven't valued their relationships, or they have misplaced values because they put energy and time and effort and life force into something that was like a leaky tire, that every time you're putting air in it, you drive a little bit, but there's a leak. You're leaking energy and you don't know it necessarily. The thing with Pisces and all of this North Node and the even Mercury retrograde and Mercury coming to station on the North Node, and then on the like on one side you have Mercury, right? At like about 27 degrees Pisces, he stations, or 26. I think it was 26 actually. And then on the other side of the North Node is Saturn and Venus and they're moving towards the North Node, which in my opinion is we need to look at things from a spiritual perspective, a non-physical perspective, from a compassionate place. You know, Venus Neptune is unconditional love. That's one of the markers in the chart for let's say unconditional love. And so Venus already conjuncted Neptune because Neptune was way back in Pisces. Maybe it was about 25, well, might have been 25 or 26. Anyway, we already had the Venus Neptune conjunction, right? So it was sort of a feeling of like anything is possible. It felt so magical as far as what we could create in terms of, let's say, love and money and beauty. Um, and that was before the eclipses, and that was before like the stock market crash and the tariffs and all of that. It just looks so Venus Neptune is very idealistic and it sees the highest and the best, right? So if you have that in your chart, any Venus Neptune aspect is very idealistic in love or money, whatever, but it's not realistic, it's idealistic. What is possible? It sees what's possible, but doesn't always see what's realistic. Now we have Venus, Saturn. It's like, oh no, we have to look at what's actually real. What is real, tangible, and is going to last and stand the test of time. Also, I think, uh, let's see, Saturn in Pisces being the leaky tire, look at where you might be like really tired and drained and ask yourself, because there will be a correspondence. Where is that drain coming from? Where is the leak? Is it a person? Is it a belief? Is it a situation? Is it a job? Is it a um, is it a mindset? You know, is it a victim mentality? Is it a glass half empty? Where we're just like really negative. And again, with Mercury there, and Mercury flipping signs, literally last week, Mercury and Neptune both flip sides. So, um, like it's almost like you could see reality manifesting. You could see in some way, if you really look at it and thought about it, how maybe our like thoughts and our beliefs become our reality and shape our reality and affect our reality. And with Saturn there, I think we need to have some level of control over our thoughts and our speech and what we attract. That's for sure. So there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot I can say. And I will just point out too that this full moon being a culmination, it's making a really awkward angle to these Neptune planets. And I think it's forcing us to kind of like look at and see because this sort of an aspect in astrology, it's called an inconjunct or a quincunx. I look at it like it's something off to the side that we didn't say. it's like it's like rounding the corner and God forbid someone's walking on the road and you didn't see them and you hopefully they jump out of the way. My road is like this, so it's like that's my nightmare going around the curve, right? Trying not to drive down the middle of the road so you hug to the side, but then you can't see what's around the curve. This is a curveball. So this is sort of being hit with a reality, Saturn, Venus, lack of funds, resources, you know, whether it's money or the resources energetically to fulfill our responsibilities, obligations with Saturn, or looking at our relationships and seeing um, where we might have, where we are being affected. Because I will tell you from experience that when we are giving to a situation and relationships that are taking, that are unbalanced. At the full moon, we need to look at, is there an equal give and take and balance between the self, Aries, and the need for healing with Chiron there, and the other party, or really our relationships in general? Are we giving to situations that are not giving back to us? Do we have a do we have an idea, a view, a mindset of the situations, the people, or the finances that is inaccurate? Is there something that we're not seeing? Because I'll tell you what, Libra, for all its talk about balance and beauty and harmony and relationships, Libra and the seventh house, which is the opposite side, like the first house is the opposite to that's the self. The opposite house is the seventh, and that is also known in astrology as the um the house of the other and open enemies. These are the adversaries, the enemy that you know, right? There are hidden enemies too. That would be 12th house, maybe some of the eighth house even. Um, but Libra in the seventh house is the adversary that you know, right? So if there is a situation where someone was actually a hidden enemy, um, or we're projecting maybe some guilt and shame and blame that we carry onto other people by, you know, making them the bad guy when we set the situation up, even if it's just on an unconscious level. We set that situation up because on some level, on the soul level, we want to learn something that we couldn't see otherwise. And there's things that you learn about yourself that you wouldn't know without the betrayal, let's say. So I think it gets better from here on in. We're still releasing a lot because it is post the full moon. We're in Scorpio, so there's a lot of psychological processing. There's a lot of maybe anger, control issues, resentment that needs to be looked at with Scorpio, moon in Scorpio, and the moon is going to square to Pluto. We need to look at the the fear of abandonment, fear of isolation, of being, fear of being controlled, which causes us maybe to try to like control other people. There are control issues coming up, uh, right after the full moon. And um, Scorpio isn't really known for being very loving and forgiving when it comes to being hurt. So I would expect there's to be a little bit of, maybe wanting to get back at somebody. Um, there could also be what we should probably be looking at going into this week too is aggression, verbal aggression, passive aggressive. Mars is still in Cancer. That may come up tomorrow when we have the moon still in Scorpio, actually the 15th. So being in Scorpio for the first part of the week, let's see, the 15th is, what is it? Tuesday. And so the moon will make a trine, which is a three-pointer, like a triangle, sorry, from Scorpio trine to Mars in Cancer, which is also trine to Mercury in Pisces. Mercury in Pisces is still not seeing things clearly. Mercury in Pisces, now that it's direct, needs to really still sort out the details and stop projecting on other people. And there is a tendency maybe here to play the victim, get angry, and spew some really emotional, toxic stuff at other people. Not great. Um, so I still think that there's going to be a very emotional and passive aggressive time. I think the moon will be out of bounds by then too. Moon in Scorpio is just a lot of Scorpio planets. You know, Scorpio is, I'm sure, you've heard the term anal retentant. That's Scorpio. Scorpio holds on to things. It holds grudges. It plots revenge long term. So yes, the moon will be out of bounds in Scorpio. And this is also the time that taxes are due. There's a lot of stress happening. Uh, and Mercury at the very end of Pisces is hanging on to the last minute, taking action on that day, very last day. And Scorpio, moon in Scorpio is perfect. Taxes, eighth house, Scorpio is about, as we say in astrology, sex, death, and taxes. All right. So that is up to Tuesday. So Wednesday, we've got the moon in Sagittarius. That's a little lighter. And Mercury moves into Aries. So that's Wednesday, the 16th. That is, let's see, it's the 15th. So the 15th is the one day. Monday is the 14th. That's our 9. That's an ending of the 9-day energy cycle. If you plot it, if you watch, you will see. So the 15th is the one, sorry, 5, all right, yeah. Monday is the 9, 14. 15 is Tuesday. That's the 1. Numerology. We're talking about numerology. Add up the date. So that's the 1. So that's coming back to self individual, one, all right, the the energy cycle starts over. And right after that, uh, you know, let's look at this again. So this is a one with the moon in Scorpio. It's very strategic. I'm not gonna lie. It's like, all right, this is the action I'm gonna take. This is what I've made up my mind. Mercury is about to go into Aries. Like, that's another one sort of energy. It'll probably do that overnight. And then it's almost like I made up my mind. I know what I want to say, and now I'm going to approach or move forward, approach a person, initiate something. Mercury going into Aries is going to announce the initiation of something. So you can also look at this in terms of spiritual initiation. Also, because Neptune is now in Aries. Uh, this is very interesting. There's going to be a shift over the middle of the week. We'll have the moon going into or being in Sagittarius, a fire sign. Mercury will be in Aries, a fire sign. Fire is energy, movement, yang, external, you know, uh, not, it's action, let's just say. Mercury is going to make up its mind and say, all right, I'm going to do this thing. I've got a new direction. I've got a new attitude. And then Mars will go from Cancer into Leo, also a fire sign. Very nice. Later in the month, I'm going to say in about a week, maybe 2 weeks, Venus will catch up. So it starts first with the mind and the emotions. The emotions change. I feel different. I feel lighter. It's lit a fire. Whatever's happening is lighting a fire. We're ready to move forward. We're ready to speak. We're ready to imagine, create, start something new, initiate. Mercury in Aries with Neptune. Neptune is the dream. Create the dream. Communication, Aries. I'm sorry, Mercury. Okay. Things will move forward that were stuck during the retrograde. Relationships will move forward that were stuck. Finances that were um, constricted, reduced, withheld with Venus, Saturn, love, whatever it is, will become unstuck. But Saturn is requiring us to look at things realistically. It's a reality check to save, um, to commit, to draw a boundary, to you maybe reduce spending or reduce the energy and love maybe that we give to a situation that is draining. You know what? Sometimes you don't know how a relationship and a situation or a person affects you until it's not there. Don't know what you got until it's gone. Don't appreciate what you have until you don't have it anymore. Or somebody leaves and now that oppressive energy is lifted. Or you have so much more energy because you're not giving to a situation that is draining your cup and not refilling it. I'm sure you've all been there. Like, you know what it's like when somebody is, all taken, you know, no giving. It's out of balance. We are seeing where we're out of balance here. Okay. Saturn lessons are tough. It really is tough. And ay, ay, ay. This is something, a pattern that I've seen, I've known, I've realized many years ago. But when it always comes down to a person, it's heartbreaking when you realize that you're giving to somebody that isn't giving back to you. And when it's a family member, that's really hard. Or, looking for some kind of validation or love or return on investment from another person. Sometimes it's just, I don't know, it's hard, I guess, when you realize it comes from a lack of self-esteem, or that, we're getting our cup filled, but it's not really filling our cup. We think it's going to fill our cup. We think it's going to make us happy, but it really doesn't. You know, it's like, I don't know. It's kind of difficult right now in some ways because these planets are meant to put us to the test. Aries is about the self and being okay on our own, being self-sufficient, having our autonomy, having our own agency. And that may be restricted. We may be held back. We may be frustrated because we're not getting what we want. But sometimes you get what you want, but it's not what you asked for. I mean, it's what you asked for, but it wasn't what you wanted because you thought it was something else. All right. So, what are we looking at here? This is Wednesday. Moon in Sagittarius is always a little lighter. That's cool. It's going to oppose Jupiter. There's a lot of activity, a lot of information, um, different choices. Jupiter's in Gemini, right? There's always like the good twin, bad twin, uh, higher mind, lower mind, flip flop, can't decide. A lot of information coming in and having to sort it out because we are looking at our belief systems also, which are changing. The way we see ourselves is changing. And I think when the moon comes into Sagittarius and it's making that trine to Mercury that's just entering Aries and Neptune, we're going to see things about ourselves that we didn't see before, or others. Or we could see opportunities that we didn't see before, or we could miss them. It all depends because we could be trading one delusion for another. So just be aware of that. But Mars is about to act. By the 17th, Mars is, no, it's still in Cancer. It's really hanging on the edge there. And Mars is going to square the sun as the moon is in Sag opposite Jupiter, which is dealing with our thoughts and exchanges of ideas and beliefs. And the moon in Sagittarius is fairly optimistic. I just think there's a little bit of delusion we still need to get over. We're learning though. Gemini Sagittarius axis is all about learning. It's all about education. It's all about gathering information and sharing it and shaping our beliefs, examining our beliefs, and things are definitely coming to a head here. Um, so that's Thursday. Friday, the moon will be in Sagittarius most of the day. It will square to, see, I've got this looking at 8 o'clock. I don't want to do that. I want to look more or less what we're starting the day with. So, all right. So the moon is trine to the sun. Mars has entered Leo. This is April 18th, and that would be Friday, ending the week. And we are starting our new life based on whatever revelations we had around the full moon. I would say the few days before the full moon, especially, um, let's see, midweek, what if there was any friction, frustration, anger, arguments, resentment, dragging of feet, projection, scape scapegoating, criticism, like really lighting into someone, lit, if you lit into someone, I don't know if that's the right word, but um, shredding someone, uh, tearing them a new one. You know what I'm talking about. There was a lot of judgment and criticism midweek, anger, frustration, and mm, it was not good. I will say that I did have my own shitstorm. So the 18th is sort of, we are still continuing to resolve those things. It may come up again because the moon in Sagittarius will square the south node. See, around Wednesday, midweek, Wednesday, Thursday, the moon would have been in Virgo. Virgo is very critical and opposing the Pisces planets, very judgmental, harsh. It is, it may or may not have been deserved, let's just say, or it may have been 100% projection. Likely projection, blaming someone else, hypocrisy, making them the scapegoat, attacking them because you're frustrated that something isn't happening, and you're taking it out on someone when it's your issue. This is what's been going on. So I'm just saying, we're still working through it. April 18th is Friday. It's how we're ending the week. Moon in Sagittarius. Sagittarius just knows it all, right? And making a trine to the sun. The sun is the individual, the identity, our ego, and we are, like I can go it alone. I could do it without you. Like I don't actually need you. And we don't even want to say that necessarily in a bad way because, maybe there's somebody that, we feel like we can't move forward without them, or we need to see how we can do it alone or stand on our own. It doesn't mean leaving a relationship or a situation. And it's maybe a little bit of needing to see that you gotta like pull your weight. Like if you're pulling weight for somebody right now and they're not stepping up and pulling their own weight, eesh, That's what's exhausting right now. That's that Saturn, um, Venus in Pisces. That is the slow tire leak of energy that you didn't even realize. Let me tell you, remove somebody from a situation. That's the fastest way to understand the dynamic between two people. Okay. Uh, Whether it's at work, remove somebody from that work dynamic, then you see what their job is. If everything just goes along smoothly, in fact, better, guess what? That was your slow leak. Or if everything falls apart, wow, you know what? That was the most important person on the team. You didn't even realize it. You don't realize what someone brings to the table until their seat is empty. So think about it. Uh, Mercury going into Aries and hitting Neptune is like you are on your own now, and you have to start thinking for yourself, thinking about yourself as an individual, not as a part of a unit. You can't be a good part of a unit or a team if you are not a healthy individual. So, looking at the self, crossing through that veil of, what's real and what's imagined and what's projected as we go along the week. Uh, I feel like there's a lot of fiery enthusiasm. There's more of an um, upbeat chatter, uh, a sense of potential and new opportunity. With Mercury in Aries, like it's a lot more brash, has a lot more courage. The Mercury at the end of Pisces with Saturn there and Venus, it was feeling a little victimy, right? A little whiny bitch, if I'm gonna be honest, especially with Mars in Cancer. All you men out there who've been on the rag, thank God you'll be off the rag soon. Um, and if you've been having to deal with that type of masculine energy that is mm, not not upholding their part of the bargain, or you know just being like taking out their resentment and their emotional issues on other people and doing that kind of projection, or you know I'm not just talking about men. When I say masculine energy, please, energy in understand that energy in astrology is different when I'm talking about energy, or if I'm talking about masculine and feminine, it's gender. I'm not talking about people, I'm talking about the sign, okay? And the way it functions. Feminine energy is yin. It does not act, it attracts. That's feminine. If you've got a man that does not pursue or does not know how to pursue, let's say, whether it's a relationship or a job or his goals, and he just sits there and waits for it to come. Seriously, some people got it like that, but I'm not saying it's a right or wrong dynamic, but like a quote feminine man who doesn't pursue, who allows, who attracts, better understand that he's probably going to attract a masculine woman, the woman that takes the initiative, the woman who is more forward and um, is kind of the go-getter. So just keep that in mind. Um, anyway, Moon trine to Sun is a harmonious aspect. It's going to make things flow easier. It's going to give us more optimism, seriously, or more of a feeling like I can do this. I'm okay. Um, Unless you're not okay, unless you feel like you can't do this, then you're still probably needing to do a little bit of work at the end of Pisces with Venus and Saturn. That's a lot of self-worth and value and spiritual lessons and obstacles and maybe, you know, the flow of abundance and money is just not there yet. I'm just gonna guess. But the 18th, that's Friday. All right. So Saturday, rounding up the week, we've got the moon in Capricorn, all about work, ruled by Saturn, all about, looking at putting our feelings aside and really looking at practical matters and maturity. It should be a pretty fairly uneventful day. There's a lot brewing underneath. It's fairly uneventful, I say, because there's not really any significant moon aspects on the 19th. It's really the 18th where we see the moon is making a trinal aspect earlier maybe overnight to Chiron. There's healing going on, um, or being able to address the wound, whatever it is. And then moon, moon making that trine aspect from a fire sign Sagittarius to a fire sign Aries is like ready to go. All right. And it's pretty positive. But then the moon gets into Capricorn and it squares Neptune, perhaps something we didn't see before. Um, from Capricorn, moon Capricorn to Neptune in Aries, probably a little bit of a reality check, or we're still not sure because we're dealing with new energy. We're in a different world now. This is all new. This is the new. All right. We haven't had this planet, Neptune, in Aries since like, I don't know, 1865, something like that. Like, we haven't seen it in our lifetime. So it's like, oh, wow, this is like really new. All right. And Mercury, we are definitely dealing with manifestation and mind and affirmations and what you think manifests, that kind of thing. There will be a lot of that for good or bad. So Saturn, I'm sorry, Capricorn, moon in Capricorn wants to get down to work and it needs to say something. There will be news, there will be ideas, there will be a turning point. We will know about it. We will hear about it. It's the new thing. So I'm going to say on Friday, look for an announcement or look for a decision or look for clarity of your own mind because it's coming. 19th Saturday. Ba, 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 ba. Like I said, fairly uneventful because the moon doesn't make many aspects. It already did what it did when it squared to Neptune and Mercury. Um, and then Saturday, Mars goes into Leo, a lot more passion, fiery energy. Okay, I see the conversation, the ideas, the mood, the understanding, the need to communicate, the way we communicate with Mercury in Aries and Mars in Leo, both fire signs. Mars is now happy. Finally, Mars is happy, but we are talking about action. We're talking about change. We're talking about, we're not waiting for change anymore. See, that's the thing about Mars, the planet of action in a water sign. All right. It's not so happy because, like, the water sign is more feminine. So there's the difference between waiting for someone else to act and acting. And Mars can't act because they're waiting for someone else, waiting for them to change, waiting for them, this or the situation, waiting for them to do something different so that you could do something different. You can't move on while you're waiting for someone else, right? Okay. So Mars will be more happy. We'll be able to act. Things will be moving forward. We will feel a little bit better. I'm thinking. Or, you know what? If there's anger, Mars is anger, the resentment in with Mars in Cancer becomes outward aggressive action with Mars in Leo. I'm just going to say also all the saber rattling and threats of war, it's on after the 19th. I feel like it is on because it will get intense, right? So the battle has been different. The strategies of warfare have been different. Now they're changing. Okay. The aggression, the action, the forward movement is changing. And it does involve Mercury communications. So the attack will be more verbal, more aggressive, the attack, or the overture, right? The offer, the potential, the positive movement, forward movement. We're going to hear about it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get the beginnings of the offer. But we do reach a sort of a pivotal point here, and it starts around the 20th. Now, this is a 6 day. The uncertainty or potential chaos or imbalance would be happening on the 19th because that's the 5 day. And on the 20th, we have the moon in Capricorn. It is going to square Chiron. So we will be tested, our maturity, our mettle will be tested of our emotional maturity and commitment to whatever, right? Um, we may experience a little bit of emotional pain, maybe of having to let go, maybe of things not going our way, or tightening our belt, or uh, things having to do with government, older people, people in authority. But the moon does make a nice aspect to Uranus, and Uranus is change. In Taurus is not so comfortable, but I do see this as being a very positive aspect where it's like we're ready for the future and we're kind of like, emotionally steely, like bring it. Okay, how much worse can it get? Uh, and knowing that probably we're over the worst of it, we have the commitment maybe that we're looking for. Saturn and Venus are sextile to the moon. It's a nice aspect. They're also sextile to Uranus. It's like we really want something different. We have to believe that it's going to be different and that's going to be good. And perhaps we've just come to the reality of the situation. And, you know, maybe things have hit rock bottom and it can only get better from here. So I think by the 20th, there is some sense of like stability, perhaps, when it comes to uh, relationships and money, or it's just facing the reality and like toughing it out for the long term. Now, the sun is going to make a square to Mars. Sun square Mars is, squares are action. They push us to change and act upon things. It's us perhaps acting upon or being acted upon. But there is going to be a T square here with Pluto. So that would really be the 21st, and that's Monday. That'll be triggered. So I see perhaps where we might be triggered by the new situation or pushed into change and action that maybe we have a fear of because Pluto is in the mix here. What we have is a T square. Mars opposing Pluto. Listen, that was terrible. That was what brought us the fires in California. This happened, this opposition happened while Mars was retrograde, going backwards, opposing Pluto. Mars and Pluto are both planets of aggression. All right. So Mars is fighting, maybe anger and aggression, and Pluto is control issues, fear, but it is transformation. It can be facing our fears and, you know, taking a leap of faith. But you know what I'll say? Sometimes when we decide to go in a new direction or take an opportunity or take a risk or just breaking the status quo, the people around us can feel threatened and there can be a power struggle. And it seems like a risky move here, but there's a lot of pressure built up. And it's like, if you damned if you do and damned if you don't, but you're just going to have to face it. Face the fear, face the control issue, face the face the decision that you've needed to make that you kind of already know by now. With Mercury direct, Venus direct, Mercury and Aries, new thing, ready to go. Mercury is sextile to Pluto. So there's a lot of like really good genius level strategic planning here when it comes to anything having to do with a new venture, your new self, new friends, new networks, new enemies, perhaps. The sun being in Taurus, we're more focused now. In Aries, we're focused on the individual. Now, with the sun in Taurus, we are looking at our stability, our resources. Mars is in Leo, which is the sign that is ruled by the sun. We are looking at also, again, our life force energy. The sun is the life force energy, right? And Leo is ruled by the sun. Okay. Mars is also a planet that represents energy, it's drive. So our words affect our life force energy, right? Are the way we think, um, our ability to act. We're being given an opportunity here. I see an opportunity to break free, to have our like take our energy back in some way. So It will have to do perhaps with resources. It's also looking at these are fixed signs, um, Leo, Scorpio, Aquarius, and Taurus. They're what we call the fixed signs. So fixed, guess what? They are stubborn. So where we are stuck, there's going to cause a lot of friction. If you want to know where you're stuck, look at where the friction is. Look at where the problem is. Look at where the fear is. Look at where the anger, aggression is coming up. All right. So just look at that. Uh, see things from the 21st on very, if there's, it's going to be moving forward, right? So you can move with this energy. You can go with this energy in a healthy way. Uh, but if someone is being forced to and they don't want to, they could react very like angrily or even violently. Like just don't, it's like martial arts. If somebody throws a punch, you just dodge, right? You could block it. Yeah, you could block it. But if you dodge, you're not losing any of your energy, and then you can come back at your opponent, right? In a way that they don't expect because now they're off balance. Okay. So I just see it becoming a little bit um, aggressive in the sense that people are like moving forward with what they want. Like I've been held back so long now, like I know what I want and the communication is flowing. I'm moving forward. I'm going forward. I'm moving forward with this. And some people may not like it, but it could just be inner frustration. There's a lot of anxiety here. There's tension. All right. Tension can cause anxiety. So it may be, people are bringing up uncomfortable things that other people don't want to hear about, don't want to address. We're not ready. I'm not ready. Oh my God, it's moving forward. It's going so fast. But on the other hand, um, there's a lot of potential for using this as the wind behind your back to say, okay, you know what? I got lemons. I'm making lemonade. Or, I've been waiting for this opportunity. I'm ready. I'm there. It's Venus and Saturn is like, but what about my commitments? But what about the money? But what about my relationship and maybe my partner's not there, quote, there yet. Or we just don't maybe we don't see, like I'm ready for a new relationship, but let's see who shows up. I don't want it to be the same old type of energy, the same, like, same dick, different face. Not to be crass, but you know what I'm saying. But anyway, so that'll be going on, that T square. And I expect world tensions to be rising. I have seen since the Aries eclipse, I have seen so much in the way of violence, of reports, news of attacks, accident. That's some crazy Mars energy right there. Uh, and again, Mars is going to oppose Pluto like it did with the fires. I hope something like that doesn't happen, but I will tell you around eclipses, um, we do see a lot of fire, volcanic activity, plate shifting, earthquakes. This is what I'm concerned about with California right here around this time next week because Mercury will it will come to eventually 9 degrees. That's the what do you call it? That's the degree of the eclipse. Anytime you have an eclipse, that's the degree, and it will get pinged every time there is a transit from another planet to that degree. So if you ever really want to know what a particular transit means in your chart, or a let's say an eclipse or a cluster, a stellium of planets, every time there's an aspect to those planets, whether it's a conjunction, a square, opposition, or even a trine or a sextile, which are a little bit more, happy, positive, tend to be positive, but there's more ease, there's more flow, whereas the others are a little bit intense and some friction comes up. But if you want to know what it's about, take note on those days. It'll show you everything you need to know. Um, the themes of that situation will come up and it'll let you know how that's progressing, where it's going to go, potentially the trajectory in the future. So as Mercury gets to 9 degrees, I know I'm going further ahead, but that's on the 25th, the moon will conjunct Mercury at about 9 degrees of Aries. That's the eclipse degree. So the eclipse being in Aries brought a lot of martial type energy. Martial. Okay, that's war. That's aggression. That's fire. That's um all of those things. Explosion, friction, fighting, aggression, anger. And at the time when Mercury gets there with the moon, we're going to have that opposition, Pluto to Mars, and the sun will have squared Pluto already, right? So it is between around the 23rd to the 25th that I would say is the time to watch. And onward from there. The ball is in play. So words are more aggressive. So maybe it's not violence. Maybe it's the time to act is now. We have the understanding, we're ready mentally. We understand that this change is coming. We are taking action to transform things. We're aware of our value. We're focused on our core values, our resources. We've committed our resources. We're making an assessment of our resources and we see where the shortfall is. This is a lot of auditing stuff. Taxes. Whoosh. Anyway. Uh, um, yeah, so I mean Venus and Saturn at 27 Pisces has hit the North Node. There's so much karmic and spiritual implication to what is happening right now. We may not understand the meaning. There is spiritual and religious, I would say, connotations to the climate that we find ourselves in. Anyway, longer than I wanted to go, as usual. But if you are still here, thank you for hanging in. I don't know who you are, but I have about 2 or 3 people that will listen to all of me. I've been told that they just like my voice and they can listen to me all day long and part of the night. And that's kind of cute. But I hope you got something from this. And if you did, please reciprocate by liking, subscribing, hitting the bell so you will get the notifications, and sharing because sharing is caring, right? Think about what I said today about even exchange of energy, looking at where you're giving out as opposed to what you're getting back. And I think about that often. When I don't do readings here and there and you don't hear from me, it's usually because my energy is elsewhere and it needs my attention. Or sometimes I'm just like, I'm not seeing enough engagement, or I would like to see more. It's just not filling my cup. Sometimes I have to be honest. And I know that's how it is, with social media and putting your work out there and blah, blah, blah. People could do it for years and then all of a sudden, bam, they blow up. Who knows? Maybe it'll happen. Maybe it won't. But I do it because I love it and I could talk fucking astrology all day long. And if you didn't know anything about astrology, you may not even understand what the terms mean, but you will get what I'm talking about as concepts of life concepts. There will be something that you could say, oh, yeah, gosh, that's what I've been going through. That's what I've experienced. And sometimes you know what the situation is. I find this with astrology readings. People have an understanding of what's going on and what they need, what they're going through, and who they are. But when you say it, when you hear it in words, when you can put a verbal description and definition on a concept that is so deeply ingrained in you that you may not even be conscious of it, it brings it to the conscious mind. I think that's fantastic. And I think that we're going through a lot of that with this Mercury retrograde having passed, and now we're moving forward and we are getting validation of maybe things that we always knew or that we've known for a long time, but it's becoming conscious. Pisces is the unconscious. Saturn, the blockages, the restrictions, the delays, the reason for what we're struggling with in Pisces, it's Pisces is unconscious. Let's just look at all of that. Venus is unconscious. We're acting from an experiencing relationships or money issues or whatever it is from an unconscious place. So, Mercury being there with the Mercury retrograde, I think we've been able to reach a depth of our own shadow, things that we're not aware of about ourselves, about our life, about our relationship, whatever it is, the spiritual lesson of it, more so than any other Mercury retrograde, I think, that I've experienced. This has been a really special one because all in Pisces, it's like this is so collective. This is so relating to all of us. This is so existential. And with Neptune moving into Aries, out of Pisces, out of the sign that it rules, we've been dealing with this Pisces stuff for freaking ever, it seems. It's been a long time where we just been like drowning it all. Drowning. Feels like drowning in it all. Like you just can't seem to come up for air. A lot of stuff going on. People, really at the end of their tether. If you know anyone struggling, reach out to them. You just don't know what's going on with people. I mean, this is a time when people who have been sober for many years go back and start drinking or doing drugs, or, you know, they just lose hope, or they lost everything. and they just give up. Maybe mentally, spiritually, emotionally, but maybe physically, and that's it. Self deletion during this time. It's a really a touch and go situation for some people. So just be aware of that and be aware that the situation will change. The vibe will change. Venus will go into Aries. I like her better in Aries. Saturn will go into Aries in a couple of months. Um, I just think there's more positivity. It's not easy, but there's more positivity coming. So hang in there and look at what really matters. If you've been kicked around and you're not getting that validation, people aren't loving on you the way you think they should, uh, give it to yourself. You know, don't put your energy into situations that is going to devalue you. Stop leaking your chi, energy, life force, because that will affect your finances too. Just saying. Okay. God, why can't I make this a short? I just can't. All right, well, it is what it is. Okay, that's it. That wraps it up for today. Happy Sunday, fun day, spring, Sunday the 13th. Uh, yeah. Um, I expect to be doing more in the coming weeks now that once everything gets out of Pisces, I'll be better. It's sitting on my Chiron. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry. I've had Saturn on my Chiron, Saturn and Venus, and here I am again. Wow. Yeah, it gives you a chance. If you've got Chiron around 24, 25 of Pisces, then you know what I mean. It just sucks. It just sucks. And there's a lot of projection, scapegoating. People don't see you clearly, me clearly. It's also around my ascendant and in my 12th house. It's like, oh, that was the hidden enemy I did not expect. I expected it from other people, but not you. Okay. Anyway. Alrighty, guys. I am out of here. I'm going to stop the sharing of the screen. And thank you for hanging in there if you did. If you did, once again, you know where to find me. astrolunachick@gmail.com if you need a reading. Also 914-222-1231 is the bat phone, the chick line, the lunachick line. If you're interested in reading, tell me what you're looking for. Tell me what your main concern is right now. Tell me, you know, how much time you want to put in the meter, however you want, however you want to roll. And we'll get it started. I can do phoners, I can do video, I can do a pre-recorded video. I don't like to do written readings. I have done them for people. It drains the fact out of me. So I probably will charge extra for it, but if it's a 6-month overview, I don't know if I can do that. Written, just saying. Um, so, they've got AI things where you could play a recording and it'll do it to text. So I don't know. Maybe we could work that out. But yeah, so that's what we can do. Thank you. Liking, sharing, subscribing. And as always, ciao for now.